Dorit Kemsley isn't on the best of terms with many of her co-stars on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. This season, Kemsley has fought with Kyle Richards, gotten close with Boz St. John, and screamed at Sutton Stracke in a bunch of different locations. Now, it seems like Kemsley and Stracke are still not getting along in a new clip for an upcoming episode of the show. The women are all in Street Lucia together and at a dinner. The group is all sitting together when Kemsley brought up her issues with Stracke at the table. Kemsley said that Sutton has been mean to her through the last few months, and even said that instead of trying to work through the issue, she claimed that Stracke wants to go lower and hurt her. In all seriousness, Sutton, I have felt in the last few months that you have been in particular just very mean-spirited to me, Kemsley said in the clip. I've wanted to overcome and get back to a good place, but that wasn't on the table. Stracke instantly fired back and told Kemsley, "We're not gonna put this just on me." Throughout the season, Stracke has been trying to make sure they all come back together in an act of sisterhood, and Kemsley threw that back in her face, saying it maybe was 48 hours and that went out the window. Any attempt to converse or to have a conversation you rejected. Rather than trying to work it out, you wanted to go lower. You wanted to have an issue. Dorit Kemsley and Sutton Stracke get into another big fight. Their fight elevated when Kemsley shut down Stracke as she was complaining. Erica Jane started to question Stracke, and when Jane said to "let me finish," it set Stracke off, having her say that she'd put her hand on the Bible, and then she said, "Because you know what I'm not gonna do by it all. I'm not gonna do this again. We're not gonna beat me with a stick." It led to Kemsley saying, "Sutton, you cannot turn and become a victim every time." Their fight did not stop there, as Stracke clearly took offense to Kemsley trying to shut the fight down. She told Kemsley, "Don't tell me what I can and cannot do." Beneath the surface, the sun was beginning to set over the azure waters of Street Lucia, casting a golden glow on the lush landscape. The scent of the ocean breeze mingled with the faint fragrance of tropical flowers, the air humming with the promise of a memorable evening. A perfect backdrop, perhaps, for a retreat where healing and reconciliation could take place. But in the world of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, nothing was ever that simple. Dorit Kemsley sat at the head of the table, her usual poise in place. The luxurious dinner spread before her was ignored, her focus entirely on the conversation that was about to unfold. She had been carrying her frustrations for months, frustrations with Sutton Stracke, frustrations that had festered and grown into something unmanageable. Tonight, she decided, was the night to air them all out. Across from her, Sutton Stracke fidgeted with the napkin on her lap, clearly aware that something was about to happen. She'd been trying, at least, to keep the peace, to heal the rift between herself and Dorit. The season had been turbulent, and Sutton's attempts to bridge the divide had often been met with resistance. She had hoped, as she always did, that the trip to Street Lucia would bring a sense of tranquility. But something in the air, perhaps the humidity, perhaps the tension, made it clear that wasn't going to happen. As the conversation swirled around her, Dorit cleared her throat, a sharp sound that cut through the idle chatter. "Sutton," she began, her voice smooth, but tinged with something colder, "I think it's time we address some things. You and I have had our differences for months now, and it's become clear to me that the attempts at reconciliation, well, they haven't been reciprocated." Sutton's head snapped up, her eyes wide. She wasn't expecting this. Not here, not now. The table fell into a sudden silence, all ears on the women as the underlying tension shifted into something more palpable. "I've tried," Dorit continued, her tone clipped, "I've tried to find common ground. But every time we try to move forward, you push me back. And honestly, Sutton, I'm tired of it." Sutton's pulse quickened. She could feel her blood beginning to boil. But she held her composure, the years of dealing with emotional conflict on reality TV kicking in. This was not the time to be weak. "Well, Dorit," she shot back, her voice firm but careful. "We're not going to make this just about me, are we?" Dorit tilted her head slightly, her eyes narrowing. "You're the one who's been so mean-spirited, Sutton. Every time I try to make amends, you just shoot me down. You reject every effort I make, and then you act like I'm the one causing all the problems." Sutton's lips parted, ready to respond, but before she could speak, Erica Jane, who had been silently observing the exchange, leaned in, her voice sharp. "Let her finish, Sutton." The simple command seemed to provoke something in Sutton. She wasn't used to being shut down, not by Dorit, not by anyone. The flames of frustration flickered higher within her. "I'm not going to do this again," Sutton declared, her voice rising slightly. "I'm not going to sit here and let y'all beat me with a stick. I've been trying, damn it. I've been trying to mend this, but every time I reach out, I'm met with nothing but resistance." Her hands shook slightly as she placed them on the table, as though holding herself steady, trying to keep her emotions in check. Dorit's expression hardened. She was done being the one to apologize. "Sutton, you cannot keep turning everything into a victim narrative. You want to act like I'm the one who's been mean, but you've been playing the victim in this entire thing. Every single time." Sutton stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. The rest of the table looked on, a mixture of confusion and anticipation in the air. "Don't tell me what I can and cannot do," Sutton snapped, her voice now louder, more forceful. The words hung in the air, thick with the weight of past grievances, unspoken frustrations, and the sheer exhaustion of their endless bickering. Dorit stood up as well, her icy demeanor never faltering, but her eyes flashing with the intensity of their shared conflict. "Sutton," she said coolly, her voice now a dangerous whisper, "you've pushed me to my limits. I have tried, time and time again, to make things right, but every time I reach out, you slap my hand away." Sutton's face flushed, the hurt of the past months finally bubbling to the surface. "You think I haven't been hurt too? You think I've just been sitting here, waiting for you to finally acknowledge me?" She paced the small space around the table, her hands flying through the air as she spoke. "I've been trying to build bridges, but every time I do, you tear them down, and I'm done. I'm done feeling like I'm the only one trying." As the words flew, the rest of the women at the table exchanged glances, each unsure how to intervene. Erica sat back, crossing her arms, her lips curling into a small, knowing smile as she observed the storm unfolding before her. Kyle Richards, who had remained silent up until this point, was watching the drama play out with a mix of discomfort and curiosity, her own history with Dorit and Sutton creating a complicated backdrop to the escalating argument. "Maybe if you didn't come at me like I was your enemy," Sutton added, her voice thick with emotion, "we could actually talk. But you've made it impossible for me to get close to you. You push me away, Dorit. You've been pushing me away for months." Dorit's jaw tightened, her breath coming faster as she stepped forward, her posture rigid, her body language aggressive. "I'm not the one who's pushing, Sutton. You're the one who keeps digging the hole deeper. You want to act like you've been the only one hurt, but you're forgetting that I'm a person too, and I've been hurt by you too." Sutton's eyes flicked to the rest of the women, looking for any sign of support. Instead, she found only silence. They were caught in the crossfire, unsure of how to defuse the bomb that had just detonated between the two of them. "I've tried, Dorit," Sutton said quietly, her voice strained. "I've really tried. But if you're going to keep treating me like this, then there's nothing left to salvage." Dorit stepped closer, her voice low but dangerous. "Maybe we're both trying the wrong things, Sutton. Maybe we're both stuck in this cycle of resentment, and neither of us is willing to break it." The words hung in the air between them, heavy and unresolved. Sutton's face softened for a brief moment, the fight momentarily draining from her. She blinked, looking away, as though the realization hit her all at once. "You're right," Sutton whispered almost too softly for anyone to hear. "I don't know how to fix this, but I don't want to keep fighting."